Hey guys, sorry it has been so long. D2 year, school gets crazy. School gets crazy, and I just ran out of time. But I finally checked on my YouTube, and I actually saw that I had quite a bit of comments that had some questions, and I wanted to try to address those. Um, and I think I'm first going to start with kind of how I prepared for the DAT, especially the second time when I got that 22. And yeah, so first of all, I want to apologize for the fact that I'm not really good at editing. So I'm going to try to edit this, but if I can't figure it out, sorry for it being so rough. Also, I have my doggies. That's one of them, and they like to bark. So I'm going to try to hope that they don't bark. But if they do, I'm sorry. Also, my fiance is playing some games with his friends, so you may hear that too. But first of all, I'm going to start with what I did my first time when I got these scores. So overall, not terrible, Got the 19 AA. OChem is the bane of my existence, and 16. But I was happy with that because I suck at OChem. And then, but QR, that's 17. I was rusty in math. But first time around, I took the DAT, and I have to say I wasn't super serious about it. At the time, I thought I was serious about it, but I would study here and there, didn't have a set place I would study. I would study sometimes in the living room, sometimes in my bedroom, sometimes on campus, And just overall, when I would practice things and I would get it wrong, I would reassure myself like, oh, I knew that though. I knew that though. Like, don't panic. I knew that. No sweat off my shoulder. Like, I got this. And I have to say, I delayed my DAT, believe probably about 2 or 3 times. Paid all those extension fees because each time I just didn't feel prepared. But in the end, I was like, I just got to do this. And I remember actually, I started crying before I went in to take the test. I think it was just the feelings of me being feelings of afraid of failure. I literally felt like I was not gonna do good on the DAT. And I was pretty happy that I got the 19 at the time. But with my low GPA, in combination with the DAT and the fact that I got a 16 and 17 in the section, no school offered me interviews when I first applied. So that's what I did. My first time around, I used DAT Bootcamp and DAT Destroyer. And those were kind of what I used, but I never used either of those resources to their full potential. Like I said, I was very here and there with studying, didn't want to study because mostly I felt like I didn't have any motivation because, again, I wasn't doing very well in the practice stuff. But that's just kind of how I was going at the time. I was just trying to get through things. And it didn't pay off. It didn't pay off. So years go by, and I'm actually back home living with my parents because COVID had hit. And I was sitting there, and my boyfriend at the time, my fiance now, he suggested, hey, we're not doing anything here, everything. I was taking some classes at like the local community college, and everything had gone online because of COVID. And he's like, hey, you're not commuting to class. Everything's online. You're not doing anything anyway. Why don't you just take the chance and retake the DAT? And I was like, oh, do I want to do that again? It was 2020. I had taken the first DAT when it was 2018. And I was like, oh, I don't want to subject myself to that. Like, PTSD, hated studying for the DAT. Didn't really know how to study for the DAT, even though I had taken it the first time. And yeah, but he was like, hey, don't worry about it. I'll pay for it. Just do it. So I was like, why not? I'll give it another shot. So this time I really researched what I should be using. And I have to say, when I used the DAT Destroyer the first time around, all it did was not motivate me. So I actually decided that I would go all in on DAT Bootcamp, and I have to say, hallelujah. I love DAT Bootcamp. Cannot recommend anything more. It is amazing. And I have to say, by the 2 years after I had taken it, DAT Bootcamp got even better. We have Mike's videos, and going into the stuff, I think I had like maybe a month left or a couple weeks left, and they released a reaction bank. Whew, game changer. So anyway, I have some notes off to the side because I wanted to read the breakdown that I had posted on the DAT Bootcamp study group. And I highly recommend joining that group too. Everyone's very, very nice. But don't compare yourself to others. Everyone's on a different level. Everyone learns different ways. Everyone has different strategies. Same thing with me. I just want to share what worked for me and what didn't work for me. So let me go and read it. So my DAT breakdown. So this was my second time taking the DAT. And overall, I found out that DAT Bootcamp was more than enough to do well on the test. However, I did end up using the Math Destroyer. That's the only thing that I used from those products was the Math Destroyer. And that's only because you saw the first time. My QR score was not good. Not good at all. And I just needed extra stuff. So for QR, I was scoring in the 18s when I was doing the practice stuff. And I was actually able to bring it up due to the extra questions and the Math Destroyer. And that's, again, like I said, you need repetition when you're doing math questions. I just felt like I needed to do questions over and over and time myself. Timing is key because you will run out of time on the actual test if you do not practice with a timer. 100% do that. For biology, I read the 120-page notes mostly. And then I used the more detailed section, like the bigger one, for the A&P sections. And that's just because it was more intense body systems. I also am a super visual person, so I used Crash Course bio videos as well, or just YouTube videos when I felt like I didn't understand something like the urinary tract system. And I would look up a YouTube video, hopefully a cartoon, because that's kind of how I do my stuff. And I would watch someone explain it. If I didn't understand it still, I would go to another video and see how they explained it worked better. And I also would write down things in this little notebook. I had this little notebook that I carried around on topics I didn't feel super duper comfortable with. I would write all the notes I had on that section, things I learned from the YouTube video, and then actually before bed, I would skim through the notebook. It got super long at the end, so sometimes I would only, cover the things I had recently looked at, or vice versa, the older things I hadn't covered in a while. But I have to say that really helped me remember and keep the things fresh in my brain. Let's see. For general chemistry, I watched Mike's videos multiple times, and I did every single question in the bank. Again, I felt like general chemistry is also like QR and math, and you just need exposure to a lot of questions and a lot of practice. And again, make sure you are timing yourself. You don't want to run out of time and then feel disappointed because you're like, I knew the material, I just took too long doing it. And overall, my test actually ended up being more concept-based. I know from other people in DAT Bootcamp study group said hey, don't get too caught up in the fact that you think it's going to be more concept-based just because that seems like how a lot of people's are. Mine was mostly math questions. So don't think about that. Luckily, mine was more concept-based, and so as long as I understood the concepts, I was able to get through it quite fast. Okay, for OChem, I hate OChem. Terrible at it, got the D- and then C's afterwards when I retook them. It just never got in my brain. I just didn't understand it. The first time I got a 16 in it. So overall, this time around, I watched Mike's videos, I have to say 3 times through, if not more. And then I would work all the questions in the question bank. Every single one. And something that happened 4 days before my test is that they released the reaction bank. Take full advantage of it. It truly helped me, and I honestly don't think I could have done as well on the OChem part if I hadn't taken advantage of it. For reading, I have to say I've always been an avid reader. So reading, I'm a fast reader as well. So reading, I was able to skim through it and get through it, and that's the only reason why I scored so high on that section. I would say if you're not a super duper fast reader, maybe practice, do those little articles every single day. My strategy for the reading section is that I would go to the first question that they gave me, and I would read the passage until I found it. Then I would stop, then I would answer the question. Then I would go to the next question, look at the question, read through it. And after you've done that, you've probably read through the paragraphs multiple times that after a while, once you get towards the end of it, you're like, oh wait, I've seen that before. I believe that's in the second paragraph. I would do that. Maybe even highlight I don't know, numbers or big important facts that you think would be important. Sometimes that helps you skim through it faster. For PAT, honestly, I neglected PAT. Didn't focus as hard on that just because I knew that my sciences sucked, and also my science GPA sucked. I think when I applied my last time, my science GPA was barely at 3.0. So I knew I needed to score high on those science sections in the DAT to make up for it. And so honestly, I would just practice every single day for PAT. I didn't do that. I did it every other day or every 3 days or something like that. Just do 10 minutes at a time. Do what they say, download it on your phone. The app that they put on the phone was so great. Wow, I wish I had that the first time. And just you're waiting at the DMV or you're waiting for something else, go through that. Make it a game. Overall, whenever I was practicing their practice tests that they have, I was averaging about a 28A, and I actually scored 2 points better on the real thing. So overall, the big difference from the first time and second time is just the fact that I had the support system, and I don't know, I took it more seriously. And the results paid for itself. Got that 22 AA. My OChem bumped up to a 19 from a 16. Biology and chemistry were 21s. Reading comp was a 27. And I just used the strategy that I had. QR went from a 17 to a 21. And then, PAT stayed the same at an 18. And I was happy with that. Some things that I recommend you doing is that you study in a dedicated area. I didn't do that the first time. And I have to say, your brain and you mix things all together, and I don't know. I just felt like I needed to get in that right mind space. So this time around, I studied in a dedicated area. I always studied outside. Luckily, my parents had a huge patio I could study at. So not only did I get fresh air, but I also got that nature, got some vitamin D when I wanted to. And it was just a nice change of scenery because I knew if I did it in my bedroom, I'd get tired. I knew if I got in the living room, I would get distracted. And, I didn't want that. Also, take breaks. Yes, you will be studying 6 to 8 hour plus days. But you have to give your brain a rest. You can't burn out. You don't want that. I did about 1 to 2 hours of studying, and then I would take a 30-minute break. In that 30-minute break, I would walk around. I would play with my dogs. I would get a snack. I also recommend, that goes into my other one, is to take walks and exercise. Get your body moving. That'll help you and your brain reset. And then also, huge one. Do not compare yourself. You're your own unique person, and everyone learns differently, and that just because you're struggling at first does not mean that you'll never get it. I sucked at most of the science sections, and I ended up averaging 20. Shh, quit. I ended up averaging 21s. 21s. So don't get upset if you are doing super terrible on the practice tests and practice questions. It's okay. It happens. You just got to get back up from it and learn from your mistakes. I think whenever I did it, the second time around, I took the test in June. And let me think. I think it was around April time frame that my boyfriend introduced the the thought of retaking the DAT. So I studied for about maybe 2.5 months. And I have to say, I felt like that was enough time that if I was studying the 6 to 8 hours a day and I had a set plan and I had a set schedule, that I was able to get through it. Also, writing down everything, write down a schedule, use Ari's like calendar breakdown and, adjust it according to your study schedule. Use the resources that you have at hand. DAT Bootcamp is not cheap, but for the resources they give you, it's completely and 100% worth it. I would do it over again so many times. So many times. And then, I hope this answers y'all's questions. I also am so sorry if you heard tons of background noise and that my dog's bark scared you, because it kind of scared me at the time. I'm not good at editing, but I try my best. And if you have any other questions, go ahead and comment them on the video. Follow me on Instagram. I try to post more on there just because I'm on it a lot more. And then I will be posting a GPA repair / kind of how transcripts and all that get put into the application process, because I knew a couple people were a little bit confused on how all those things went. I also had like 4 different colleges I went to, so I had a ton of different transcripts I had to put in. But yeah, I hope it was helpful, and I hope everyone has a happy new year and you had great holidays and a great break.